I'd like to call the regularly scheduled meeting for the Village of Tinley Park Plan Commission to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Move on to taking the roll call. Lori, can you take the roll call?
Commissioner Bettenhausen. Commissioner Gaskell.
Present.
Commissioner Gatto. Commissioner Hamilton.
Here.
Commissioner Manny.
Present.
Commissioner Merrick. Commissioner Sepisi.
Present.
Commissioner Truxell.
Here.
Chairman Gray.
Present. Okay, we do have a quorum. We'll move on to the next item. Communications. Staff, are there any communications at this time?
No communications.
Okay, we'll move on to the approval of the meeting minutes. May I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of the July 6th, 2023 Plan Commission meeting?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion made by Commissioner Gaskell, seconded by Commissioner Truxell. All those in favor of approving the July 6th, 2023 minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion is carried. We'll move on to the one and only item on today's agenda. It's a workshop to consider recommending that the village board grant Ramsey El-Shafei on behalf of Oak Park by EEP LLC, the petitioner, two variations from section 12.d.9, private lot standards, table 2.d.6 of the zoning code. The proposed variations will increase the required interior maximum side yard setback from 5 feet to a 10 1/10 feet, and increase the private roadway's maximum curb cut width from 20 feet to 31 feet. The petitioner is requesting these variations to permit new construction of a 31-unit townhome development located at 17822 to 17828 Oak Park Avenue, zoned within the NG Legacy Neighborhood General Zoning District. Site plan and final plat approvals will also be considered at the meeting. Staff, if you can make your presentation.
Thank you, Chair Gray. So up on screen, I have the site. So this is bounded in the red. It's approximately 2.6 acres. It's on Oak Park Avenue on the west side and a little bit north of 179th Street. At that corner of 179th and Oak Park Avenue are the Union Square townhomes. So the subject property is vacant land just north of that. It's been vacant since the 1990s, where prior to that, there were homes that had been demolished. So as far as the zoning, the Legacy District rules that area. So as you can see in the light purple, that is part of the Legacy District, specifically the Neighborhood General, NG, sub-area of the whole Legacy District. So that is run by its own code, Section 12 of our zoning code. And you can see the subject property as well as the properties immediately to the north and south are also in that district. And then surrounding in the southwest is R6 and then R1 to the northwest. And as far as the uses for that, you have the north of it is a series of residential buildings, 5 of them, 3 stories, and the south are, as I said, the Union Square townhomes. And the key thing to note about with the Legacy District, it's part of the Legacy Code, as I said, which adheres to the Legacy Plan. It's a different type of plan, more of a form-based code that we adopted in 2009 that kind of maximizes walkability and certain characteristics for those areas, such as the Neighborhood General. So the proposed use is to obviously develop and improve this vacant land with a 31-unit townhome development. The petitioner anticipates to proceed with this in one phase of construction, approximately 8 to 10 months, starting next spring of 2024 upon permit approval. The one phase of construction will start from the Oak Park Avenue east side, then proceeding west. So as variations are concerned, the Two variations are noted. One is to increase the interior side yard setback from a 5-foot maximum permitted by the Legacy Code to a maximum of 10.10 feet. As I noted, the Legacy Code has differences in setbacks. In some cases, they have maximum setbacks. So, the south end units in this development, they have a range exceeding that from 8.25 up to 10.10. The petitioner states that the separation will help provide a community feel with this sufficient building separation, as well as providing for stormwater and utilities to run between the properties. And then secondly, the other variation is to increase the private roadway's maximum curb cut. So this type of roadway in the Legacy Code is considered an alley, which is 20 feet wide maximum allowable by code. They're proposing 31 feet. So, and this is only for that private roadway that runs in easterly-westerly direction that connects with Oak Park Avenue. And this would be to, obviously, the wider of the road, in this case beyond the 20 feet, would allow for better vehicle circulation, namely to have a fire truck be able to come in. So apologize for the overlap there on this resolution, but the open item I'll have at the end of the presentation is to discuss the proposed variation requests for the side yard setback as well as the roadway maximum curb cut. So as far as site plan and the circulation, how to get around, it's one private roadway with 3 alleys that it serves and 6 buildings. One is a 6-unit building that's 3 stories with rear-loaded garages, front doors on Oak Park Avenue. The 5 remaining buildings are 5 units with front-loaded garages along with the front doors on that same side that face, with their driveway facing these access alleys. Here's an image of the site plan. Like the staff report, I just added in a few arrows to kind of show the circulation. And, some of the details I noted in the report as far as signage and moving around. There's, at the far northeast at the entrance, there'll be proposed a no outlet, no through traffic sign. There are no plans to have this road extend any further. You can see that the site would be improved with pedestrian amenities like bike racks as well as, of course, sidewalks that runs along the south side of this private roadway. Also, we'll note that site plan architectural approval, of course, would be conditioned on final engineering plans at the permit review phase. For Public Works, our engineering has looked at these plans and has already provided comments to help assist them in the final stages of making their plans. The open item that I have here is hopefully a bit of a Scrivener's error or a simple drawing error that was raised in previous communication with the team, is to have them clarify or remove these rectangular boxes. You can see I've just highlighted that in red. So as far as the landscaping, here's an image of the overall landscaping. It largely meets code. And in the Legacy District, again, regulations are different. So buffer yard perimeters, there's no buffer yards required based on the type of adjacency. So on the northeast and southeast, it's not required for buffer yards specifically. They did provide several shade canopy trees on the northern perimeter for the neighbors to the north. And also notably on the east, we do have a requirement for shade trees, 1 per 25 feet. At 200 feet of frontage, that would make 7 trees. But given the configuration of how the site works with the walkways, 6 has been provided, and staff is at this time supportive of that waiver request. Also, foundational plantings are in the front of these units, and it's 100% coverage. Our code only requires 70%. So they're going above and beyond that. I'll flip to the next screen so you can see more of what I'm referring to. Southeast has 2 shade trees, 1 evergreen, no code requirements needed for that southwest. There are code requirements for trees and shrubs, so they have provided a plan that preserves 30 existing trees, and they've proposed plantings to be installed within that. In the northwest, there is a 40 by 40-foot bioswale. That's at the far northwest corner of the site, and that'll have deep-rooted native plantings. So as far as the foundational plantings and other amenities from a landscaping level, foundational plantings are throughout the site, so in front of the 5-unit buildings as well. We worked with the petitioner to make sure that the location of these shade trees don't conflict with the site lighting. Between the rears, there's two instances in the site where there are rears to rears of the 5-unit buildings. So between that, there will be an infiltration trench that has topsoil and sod and a 6-foot-high privacy fence. And then additionally, along the patios, the rear patios, there are short privacy fences that largely separate the units. For the most part, the southernmost unit is oriented with the pad on the southern side of that unit. So it's a little different, but there's still a privacy fence. The CC&Rs, staff did take a look at what they've written. There is an option in the CC&Rs to, as long as their association's board approves of it, to have a landscaping hedge to help separate units additionally. So staff has no concern or issue with that. Also, air conditioning units, they're located behind the units. So this, on the 5-unit buildings, it's 1 per unit, whereas on the 6-unit building, they're grouped 3 into sets of 2, 3 sets of 2s. So as far as architecture, it appears to be a consistent exterior design, and the 6-unit building has a little bit of an upgrade on the features. It's because it faces Oak Park Avenue, and that, of course, is a priority frontage, helping align with the legacy plan. Again, the quantity of that, we have 31 units, so 5 5-unit buildings and 1 6-unit building. So here's an image of what the 1 6-unit building looks like. So you can see there's a good amount of detail provided here. So you have up at the top the nested gable, with a couple of flanking front gables. There's a canopy overhang for these entries. They're noted here on the elevations. We don't see them on the site plan, as the site plan's more of a footprint. But nonetheless, these are proposed. And we have a variety of materials and colors and window sizes, dormer, 4 small dormers that are interspersed with these front gables. And there's like a subtle relief of planes. So when you look at it, it's not a completely flat facade. As far as the rear, which is on the bottom there, there's not as much play with the planes, but it does have kind of a mirrored look to it. So it's flanked by the 2 large gables, and the windows the windows just mirror from the center of the building, and the garages are centered on the units. So not too dissimilar from that, with some themes carrying over the 5-unit buildings. The garages are front-loaded, but you still have these dormers and the centered garages, the same kind of colors and general materials. There's a little bit of upgrade on the 6-unit building, but overall, most of these materials carry over. And on the back, since it is a front-loaded garage, it's where you have that outdoor amenity space of a patio. So, as I said, the patios in the rear, it's a 10 by 12 concrete proposed. The 6-unit building does not have a designated personal outdoor space. The village staff was in previous discussion to ask the petitioner to consider rear balconies. So this would, if it was implemented on the drawings, in the back of the 6-unit building. It could help improve the appeal visually of the property. So we do have this as an open item to discuss the need for a balcony on the rear of the 3-story townhomes. And then next is additions, decks, et cetera. The petitioner is not proposing anything beyond what they sent, so there's no plans for any additions or other types of structures beyond what you see in the plans. The CC&Rs did provide indication that any additions or these types of alterations would require their association board and approval. So, that's one thing to note, that they, if they, staff is proposing a recommended condition, as you can see at the bottom, to limit any and prohibit any of these additions or exterior alterations without having a uniform proposal. So if they came back with something, we'd want to see like one design and have it come back to the Plan Commission. As far as the code, it meets the materials in the code from the legacy, 75% minimum primary facades, certain types of materials, they meet all of that. There's a consistent style of architecture composition throughout the structure. And if an addition were to be put in, it would have to, again, meet these things. Rear yards would have to remain at least 5 feet minimum. And so, as I said, it would, they haven't proposed anything. We just have this as an open item because it's something that can eventually come up with a proposal in a project further down the road. As far as materials, so I noted before they meet code. They got brick, fiber cement siding, asphalt shingles, aluminum brackets, fascia, windows are vinyl. The metal, there's a small part of the materials on the 6-unit building. Part of this canopy overhangs is like an accent with a standing seam metal. So these fiber cement that they've got is the party board, so it's a quality product, I'm sure everyone's familiar with. And then, the brick is, you just see like with the 2 different tones that it's got. So you have kind of these cool grays, blues.
Yeah, looks nice.
So there's a different configuration of how these look panels. Hardy has a panel vertical siding and plank lap siding. It's like straight siding. But then on the 6-unit, there's also some shingle, shaped shingles. So, there's, like I said, good material selection, complementary to everything. As far as signage, petitioner stated that there's no property or subdivision signs planned, but if they do want to do something, they would need to meet code. And for parking, code requires 1.5 per dwelling unit. So by having a 2-car garage with 2 cars in the driveway, that goes beyond what code requires. The property also has a portion of the north side of the private roadway that vehicles could potentially park. The other portion of that north side, as well as all of the south side, would have no parking. As far as on the 3 alleyways, the fire department has stipulated that at least on one of the sides, no parking would be allowed. And again, this is just to facilitate fire access. And then bike racks, as I mentioned before, they serve a total, when you quantify how many bikes per rack, it's 32, where code would require 31. Lighting, so hopefully this is an open item that the petitioner can just be able to clarify, and we can move forward. So as far as the fixtures, there's 2 different kinds of specifications that were provided. So on the left, you can see there's site lighting, and then on the right is a wall fixtures, like a sconce, that they provided by a company called Access Lighting. So the site lights, they're Sternberg decorative site lights. The village requested these lights to be specified. so that they would match what's in front of Union Square Townhome. So they provided specs for that. And then these building lights, you count 93 of them throughout the site. So for each unit, there's one in front and two in rear. As you can see there, the fixture is Dixon fixture. It's no visible light source. It's an LED with kind of a flared shape to it. The plans show, the lights, site lights, but especially these building lights, we just need to make sure, the petitioner would need to make sure that the photometric is, it appears that the locations of them might be slightly off from where you would see them situated elsewhere on the plans. And just to make sure that they've got the right lights in the right places. On the far upper right, you can see a snippet from like a floor plan where it looks like there's a light that would be underneath the canopy, so like something that's ceiling mounted. So as far as the foot candles, so legacy code is different from the rest of the standard code where, we do have these maximum foot candles, but there's also provision that if it's demonstrated satisfactory to the village to show that it's for security and safety reasons, that, it can exceed the stated maximum. So the maximum is 0.5, and on Oak Park Avenue, it is 2.0, but this is Oak Park Avenue where there's a sidewalk. And then along the, in one instance on the west alley, it is 0.7, and the other two alleys, there's two increments where it's 0.6. So these would be where the alleys end, so it's not to conflict with anything else. So the open item, it discussed exterior light selection, placement, coordination among photometric plan, fixture cut sheet, exterior elevations, line drawings, and floor plans. And then lastly, plat approvals. So there's two plats. One is for the plat of vacation, the other is the plat of subdivision. Plat of vacation is for the sliver of land on the southeast along Oak Park Avenue for 10 feet deep by 100 feet running north-south. And the plat of subdivision, of course, the subject property is 3 lots. So it is to propose to convert it to 32 lots, 31 units plus the common area unit that would, a common area land that would serve the private roadway. There's easements, of course, on the plat, so I noted these in the staff report, ingress, egress for those alleys, also public utility easements running along the alleys, and then there's areas for stormwater management. And then up here on the screen, I have an image of how those lots are laid out. So as standard, we would typically recommend the condition that the plats are subject to final approval by village engineer and village attorney and other jurisdictional approvals. So I've got the 5 open items that I noted up on screen, and I have with us here petitioners. So I have Jimmy Doyle and Ramsey El-Shafi, and a gentleman representing their general contractor from Meadowbrook Builders.
Okay, well, if the petitioner and his team would like to speak or present something, please feel free. I don't have to swear you in, it's just a workshop, so.
Yeah, no problem. So Ramsey El-Shafi, I'm one of the, I represent one of the owners of this project. We have a partnership with 2 different families, and so this project is part of our opportunity to invest into some residential projects. A lot of our current projects are commercial real estate projects, so we have a lot of familiarity with managing and developing real estate. And so this is just a venture in us trying to invest in a different market for us and to continue to grow Tinley Park and find an opportunity here. I mean, for us, we're here to open questions and answer anything you guys might have some clarification on. Or need clarification on. I think that I'm happy to go through the drawings in more detail or answer any questions, but And Lori did a great job at covering really majority of the detail here, so I don't know how much more I can talk on that. So,
Okay.
can I open it up to you guys if there's any
Sure, yeah,
comments?
Mr. El-Shafi, I appreciate your time. The first thing I'm going to, I'll get to the commissioners. I just wanted to ask, perhaps you or your team could clarify, staff had a question on the drawings where it showed that rectangular box by the garages for the 6 units. Is that just, like she said, a Scrivener's error, or is it something, is that to represent something?
It was not to represent anything. I think that just was on the drawing as a, I think at one point they considered like expanding the garage or doing something on that end, but it doesn't represent anything in our plans, so it's just a matter of taking those lines out.
Okay, no problem. I just wanted to get that clarification.
Yeah.
And then my understanding, and you or your team correct me, or staff correct me if I'm wrong. So the access road, which goes east-west, that will be off of Oak Park Avenue, and that's actually, it's a private road. It's Lot 32. I just have one question. Is it 178th place like it shows here, or is it 178th court? I see it different on the page 4 shows it as, the one that's up on the screen shows place. Page 5 of the staff report, the drawing there shows, unless my eyes are failing me, 170, and I can't tell if that says 8th or 9th.
Yeah.
But it says court.
Yeah, and so some of our drawings, initially, they had them differently, and I know that the village had, I think you guys had asked us to specifically do, I think it was court, 178th court,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken. And so I think all of our drawings are now consistent. It might
Okay.
just be an older plan that might be in,
Fair enough.
in this drawing here.
Okay. Okay, those are just kind of general questions I just had when staff was presenting, and then I will go to my team right now, the commissioners. I'll start with Commissioner Manny. Any comments for the petitioner?
Just one thing for staff to clarify, based on the code, that roadway that goes into subdivision, you're saying it has to be 20?
Maximum by code. So
And
this
then
is
based
the,
on the petitioner's drawings, it's shown at 31.
yes,
So
and
I
that,
find the
that is-
20 very too narrow.
so the code is 20 feet maximum.
Right,
For an alley, they're proposing, for this type of roadway, we classify that as alley,
right,
and they're proposing 31 feet, hence the variation to go 11 feet over.
right, yeah. And then my next question is, bear with me. The setback, based on the petitioner's drawings, it's a setback, the 6-story building, are they in line with the other existing buildings on Oak Park?
To the north, or to
Right.
to the south?
To the north? Or the Union Square development?
Union Square is to the south, so this variation is for a request to the south.
I believe to the south, they're almost right, they're pretty close, if not lined up. That's why they're actually asking for the vacation to get right on that property line. And that's what the legacy code calls for, is to have
Okay,
you
okay.
right up there. So I know to the south, definitely, because those were part
Okay.
of the legacy code to line those up. To the north, I'm not 100% sure.
And my only other comment, it looks good.
And I did want to piggyback on something Commissioner Manning said, as it's fresh in my mind. As the staff mentioned, 31 feet is to allow fire trucks, 21 is too narrow for that quote-unquote alley. And I know the Village of Tinley Park Fire Department had recommended signs for those north-south, alleyways to the driveways to show no parking. That wasn't originally in the plan. Are you guys going to put that in the plan, or?
It is part of the submittal, so.
Okay, so it is,
On,
okay.
on the alleyways, you're only allowed to park on one side.
Okay.
And that'll be a private road that will privately put the signage up for that. And now the driving radius for the fire truck, would actually use the most northerly aisle to kind of do his U-turn. And we did a fire truck study to show that we can prove that he can make the U-turn.
Okay, excellent. And I think staff mentioned too, like, if maybe somebody has a shindig, that private road, 178th Court, that you would still be able to park perhaps to the south or north? Is that what you were saying? On that, you know, the road that comes off of Oak
The
Park?
private alley, I believe their plan was you could park just on the north side of that.
Okay.
For visitor parking and things like that.
That makes sense. It's
Yeah.
gonna be big enough for entrance, as long as it's wide enough
And
at the
then-
mouth for a fire truck.
And that was the fire department's, they said only one side on that main
Okay.
178th Court. And then same on these down alleys.
Okay.
Because they were worried about two cars parking behind the garage, and then also maybe someone trying to park behind them if you're having people over, and then we don't want any of that, because we
Right.
gotta be able to get in, back out and around.
Right.
And-
Yeah, good.
And to further clarify, I believe right when the fifth building kind of starts, that's when we cut parking off. So that way the fire truck can kind of come to the right, hug the curb, and then make its turnaround.
Okay.
So, and that is identified on our plans.
Okay.
So you can only park on the part of the north side of this 178th Court,
Okay.
but not towards the westerly end of it.
And I think it's a note in the drawings, and it's
No
probably
parking.
not pictorially covered. It's just a written note within our documents.
Okay.
So you wouldn't see it probably on this submittal here.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, I just wanted to mention that while it was fresh. Okay, any other comments, Commissioner Manning?
No.
Okay, Commissioner Truxell?
Yeah, just a question. Based on the staff report about balconies in the 6-unit building, would the balconies be on the front side or the back side?
Staff had, in review comments prior to coming here, we had suggested for the petition to consider that in the rear.
On the rear side, okay.
facades. The proposal on the front already has a lot of great detailing
Yes,
and, yeah.
right.
So the rear looked like it's an opportunity to provide outdoor space and to give a little more visual interest to the rear.
Okay. That was really my only comment. Everything else looked good. Be a nice addition to the village, so that's it for me.
Okay. Commissioner Hamilton?
Yep, I have no comments. It looks good. It's a
Thank you.
nice plan.
Thank
Okay,
you.
excellent. Commissioner Gaskell?
I have nothing to say, other than it does look good. I agree with them that it does look good. It's a good plan.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Sepisi?
Will the balconies, the proposed balconies, would that be a match for the ones that are just south of 179th?
So per our current submittal, we do not have balconies on the 6 units. And some reasons for that. One is if you're on that balcony, you would be staring straight into the master bedroom of the 2-story units, which is a privacy issue, number one. Another reason, is really because we felt like this is an urban community, being right on that street, on that corner, you're walking distance to the downtown area. And we feel that because of the urban area, there's a lot of other areas that you can enjoy exterior living. And because we have such large variety of what we're looking to market, there's only 6 units that are missing the balcony, right? So the majority of the units that we're providing do have the outdoor living space. And then in addition, the 3-story units do have a really nice landscaped front yard that they could possibly use for a chair or two to use that lawn space.
Just to cut in, overall, it was just a comment made from staff in the early stages of this process to the petitioner. We left it as an open item for you to discuss overall if it's something you think is very important, not important, to give staff direction on how to move forward and to help the petitioner understand if it's something. But we just wanted to keep it as an open item for discussion tonight.
Yeah, and that was something I was going to ask as well, in terms of the, adding it to the back there. You do make a point about you be staring into the master bedroom. I don't know, that's not something your neighbors would want. and you probably don't want yourself. But it is only 6. I know some of the ones off of 179th, they have the faux, at least on the front. I know on the back, they have the actual ones, but they have the faux balcony. To me, it's not, because of the privacy issue, it would not be a deal breaker for me. I can understand that. Whether they use that frontage along there, I know, like, my wife and I, we walk along there quite a bit. So some people like a front porch area, some prefer a balcony. But I guess if they wanted a balcony, they would get one of the other units, right? And I like the privacy fences you guys had in the one. Okay, yeah, you mentioned, or the staff mentioned in the report that it was based on market feedback, but is it just more of the privacy issue than?
So it's a privacy issue in our eyes,
Yeah.
but we did talk to prospective brokers. So we have 3 different brokers that we've talked to that would help us on the marketing side of these units to go and help us lease them. And so their feedback was that they didn't feel that it was a huge selling factor, nor was it a detriment to us being able to rent these out. And so we didn't feel that it was really necessary as part of this development. And based on how the floor plates lay out, if we were to do a balcony, you're reducing your kitchen significantly, pretty much causing you not to have a window to look out where your sink would be in your kitchen. And then you're breaking up the space significantly to where it's not going to be necessarily the open floor plan and larger kitchen. So to sacrifice to get 20 square feet of exterior living space versus reducing significantly your main living corridors of your kitchen, your small dining room, and your living room, we didn't feel the trade-off was really worth it as a consumer.
I personally don't think it's a deal breaker. I just straw poll with the commissioners.
I don't see it as a deal breaker.
Okay.
Not at all.
So, then, in the back of the 6 units, you have the garage doors. That just doesn't show any of the ground, the graphic here.
Yeah, maybe we go.
What space is back there for you to use other than parking your cars?
And maybe we go to the landscaping plan, because
Right.
the rendering doesn't show what the landscaping is as well, because you have some trees that would break up, kind of give you a little bit more privacy on the ground level. But there's a sidewalk that goes to the front doors. There's a little area for your air conditioners, the driveway, and then there's a small landscaping space between them. And I think you might have the plan that has the zoomed in portion of this, Lori.
Photometric?
Yeah, oh, no, go
I
back,
think you just-
sorry, you just passed it.
Oh, the foundationals.
Yeah, so
right
this
there.
gives you a little bit of an idea of, there's a little bit of landscape space, but there's not a lot. And I don't think that's somewhere you would really spend any of your time either, because you're gonna be facing the other front of the other townhomes. So,
Yeah.
but if you look at the front yard, there is some space that there's opportunity to be used, because that it would be privately part of their space. It's not like it's a shared or part of the village road or anything like that. And there is some nice landscape areas in that front section. And sorry, if you want me to pull up any of the bigger plans, I can show you a little more
No, this
detail.
is fine. Yeah. Okay. Any other comments, Commissioner Sepasi?
No, not at all.
Okay, trying to look at the open items to see if there's anything left. I think we've kind of gone over most of it.
One more question.
Sure, go ahead, Commissioner
Are
Trucks.
those 4-story units on the 6-unit building? With that-
3-story.
That dormer on the top? Because you have ground level, middle level, 3rd story, then a dormer on top of that. So what's under the dormer? 6-story, or the 6-unit building. Those are the 5s. There you go. 1, 2, 3.
I think those are faux windows.
Typically, dormers like that are architectural features
Okay.
to add entry.
It's extra
So
parties.
that's a more accessible space then.
I don't know. Is
Not,
it
not that
acceptable?
I'm, not that I'm aware of. I mean,
Not
there's no
easily.
attic, no storage space, not a part of our plans, so.
All right,
It's mostly decorative.
thank you, yep.
Okay, and I guess the only thing I have left is, well, actually, there's two things. So, one of them, and it was just to acknowledge, you know, you're not required to do a buffer on that north portion of that 178th court. You guys have at least 13 shade trees that I saw north of there. I think that's nice to, you know, kind of at least screen
Yeah.
from the neighbors to the north. So, and then you also have trees on the south side, so I think together they'll act nicely as a screen from the buildings. So that's just a comment on that. And then last, on the lightings, the lighting details, which was, I believe, open item 5, I just want to make sure, are these, I see the picture of the wall mounted, are there also ceiling mounted?
So this is just documentation that needs to be cleaned up with our architect. So the renderings don't always depict the exact fixture that we're going to install, right? But our line details can. And so we are going to have 2 fixtures, one on either side of the garage and then one by the back door. I'd have to take a look at the plans to see if there's one by the front door, but I don't believe so. There's a downlight by the front door? Okay. But this is mostly items that we just need to clean up a
Okay.
little bit. You know, architects and engineers right now are swamped, so it's just, I think, something that we missed.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other comments on any of the open items? That's all I have, so Ramsey, you may take a
Thank you.
seat, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, everyone.
I'll, I guess, staff, do you need any other recommendations on these open items, or?
So I think let's see, unless the commission has any other comments about the variation requests, right? Because that is one of the zoning entitlement things that we'll be seeking shortly at the public hearing. The rectangular boxes we talked about, as well as the balconies and additions and lighting. So unless there's any other comments, again.
No, I mean, if there's anybody else from the team wishing to speak, or anybody here wishing to speak, do so now. Otherwise, we'll move on. If you got what you need, staff. Okay. So there will be a public hearing on August 3rd, 2023 on this item. So Mr. El-Shafi, if you and your team can be present here, it would be appreciated. You can get with staff if you need more details. But thank you for your time today, and we're done with you guys, so you can leave if you want. We'll move on to the good of the order. Staff, anything for the good of the order?
2 things. North Street Harmony Square is moving along. Hopefully that project will also come on the 3rd for workshop. They submitted, we know we got all of our planning comments in. It's quite a big project, so talking to the director today, we're still pushing for the 3rd, but very soon, hopefully we'll have all the comments for that so we can review it. And then finally, Lori here, passed her AICP test a while ago, but now she finished all the requisites, all the requirements, so she is now an AICP certified planner. So I'd just like to
Nice.
congratulate her on that.
Congratulations.
Nice, congrats.
In the 2 weeks I've been here, there's nobody I find more deserving of AICP certification. I am not surprised she passed it all on her first try. So, yeah, every planner here now is certified, so we have a very good staff and crew.
Yeah, Michael, I think, was certified last year as well, so.
Okay,
Great.
excellent, wow. Well done. Okay, then we'll move on to receive comments from the public, seeing no public here.
Public left.
We'll move on to adjourn the the Plan Commission meeting. May I have a motion to close the Plan Commission meeting?
So moved.
So I hear a motion made by Commissioner Manny and seconded by Commissioner Gaskell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion is carried. This meeting is adjourned at 7:45 PM. Thanks. Good night, everybody.